Haven't done one of these videos in a long time. I am actually going to refinish the blade on this knife. So I'm going to take you guys over to the table. I'm going to walk you through some of the steps. I've already done some prep stuff. I cleaned up some of my tumble medium and things like that. But I'm going to walk you through the steps of prepping this to actually stonewash this blade, and then we'll do the actual stonewash. So let's go over to the tabletop. All right, so let's look at what we're doing here. So I lent this knife to a friend, and he cut a bunch of sandpaper with it. You can see it's all scratched up. Now, is that really such a big deal on a cheap knife like this? No, but the fact is this was a gift from Jared, and it gives me a prime opportunity to do a refinish on this. On top of that, there's a little bit of rust that's starting to form on the spine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble this knife. I'm going to show you how I prep a knife for a stone wash, and we'll get into that. So I will probably time lapse the disassembly process, but I'm going to talk about some of the tools you need for this. So you are going to need something to mask your lock face on the blade. So right here on the lock tang, I am going to mask that because I don't want to ding that up and interrupt the interface on the lock, because it has really good lock marriage. So I am going to clean this up and put a little bit of masking material. I prefer to use liquid tape. Now, I also am going to tell you, you have to have some way to tumble this. You can get away, if you're just doing a coarse garbage can tumble, as we used to call it, just putting the tumble medium inside a container and then hooking it to your drill and letting it roll. You can also just put it in a container and shake it if you want. Now, I have got something here that I use that's it's pretty much perfect for it. It's just an old school rock tumbler. It's got the octagonal interior so that it's going to just continue to roll the pieces around. It works perfect if you're only doing one or two pieces. But like I said, you can get away with not using one of these unless you're going to do a super fine stone wash. We'll talk about that after. Let's get this out of the way. I'm going to start taking this knife apart. So let's go ahead and get this taken apart. Now, I have got 3 different bit drivers. This is a very expensive bit driver. You guys don't have to break the bank on these bit drivers. These are like 12 bucks each. They've got all the bits you need in it. I just like to have more than one. I have a T8, a T15, I believe, for pivots on larger knives, and a T6. So these Huskies are great. I paid way more than I should have for this, but I was trying to support a new maker. So we're going to take this apart. And so this is I believe this is all T8 on this knife. So I'm going to take this completely apart. And the difference between how we're going to do this and how we would do it if we were doing maintenance is I love when companies use all the same size heads on the bits. Other companies can take a lesson from some of these companies that are doing this way. It makes it so much easier on the end user. I only have to have one bit. I can basically put these away now. I can just use my T8. So I'm going to get my bowl for temporary storage of all of the hardware. Now, I'm not going to do anything with the pocket clip, so I don't need to take the pocket clip off. And since we are taking this completely apart, we'll just go ahead and put all this stuff in here. I was going to use temporary storage, but so there you go. Now, you're going to want to remember which screw goes where. So I have a long screw that's going to go, let me get this blade off and I'll show you. You have a long screw that's going to go into the heel and the back spacer, and then these 2 screws are going to stay in, these 2 screws are going to stay in because I don't have to completely disassemble this knife. But just remember that your shorter screw goes here, your longer screw then will go into the back spacer. So now we've got our bearings and everything in there. Put it in a sealed container because this is not going to be just a stone wash. I'm going to try something I haven't tried before here at home, which is a really fine stone wash. So what we're going to do is we're going to tumble this, get a heavy, heavy stone wash on this. And then we're going to go back and switch the medium. And when I talk about the medium, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to use these ceramic pieces here for the heavy stone wash. It's going to give it a really aggressive stone wash on this. And then I'm going to switch to a different set after a period of time, which is these right here. These are little ceramic, we always call these cake sprinkles. And what this is going to do is that is going to refine and kind of polish it up, but leave the heavier, deeper scratches. The heavy stone wash is going to mask the grind lines pretty much and any scratch that you see on the blade. And then these are just going to refine that and polish it. You're kind of going to get a polished stone wash. if I can do it correctly. So this is going to be a multi-step process. This might take a couple days, which is why we're starting this on a Saturday, because typically I can't film if the tumbler is running, but we will be doing a sharpening video as well today. So you're going to hear some background noise. All right, let's get some of this stuff out of the way and prep this blade so I don't forget later. You can't just put these in the tumbler dry. You have to have a liquid medium. This is a D2 blade. Some people will tell you soap and water and stuff like that. I absolutely prefer, especially because I'm dealing with steel, not with rocks, this is probably the best thing to use because it's already a rust remover. It's going to prevent this from rusting, and it has a surfactant to it that is going to keep these from loading up, and they last longer. So I do recommend this. Comes pre-made. You can just order this off of Amazon. It is completely non-toxic and it is environmentally friendly. You can just pour this down the drain when you're done with it. It won't hurt anything. So that is something I wanted to make sure I mentioned. So now let's start prepping this blade. Now this stuff is really, really cool. It's going to allow me to mask this blade and do a good job of getting it. I don't need a lot for what I'm doing. So I put a little bit there. I'm not going to use the brush because the brush is too big. I have an old electronic swab that's used. I'm going to get a little bit on that. Now I have a smaller applicator basically, and I'm just going to, well, first, I'm going to clean that really good with some alcohol so that I make sure it sticks. And then hit that with a rag. I'm off camera for a second. And the reason we're doing this is I don't want to have this lock interface change at all. So I'm just putting a coat of this on here and then I'll let it dry. You don't need to like put a lot on, but you want to put enough on, and then you're going to want to let that dry for a while. Now, some people will say, oh, you should mask the detent track as well. I've never liked that. And if you look, this detent track is outside and you're going to see that. So what'll happen is I'm going to stone wash all this. That detent track that I've already cut in is not very heavy anyway, and it's going to cut itself back in. But if you try to mask that detent track, you're going to be able to see a spot that doesn't match the finish of the rest of the blade. I find it a little less professional than I would want. Just getting the last of this on here so that it's completely covered. And then I'm going to let this dry for like an hour or two. You can use a heat gun to force dry it and stuff like that, but you basically are just trying to get enough of this on here in this area, up a little bit more than I wanted. That's fine. You're just trying to get it on there and have it just mask that so that you don't screw up the lock interface. So let me get this stuff put away because it stinks. Okay, so just a note, I wound up having to go back and get a new bottle of the liquid tape. That one was a little too dry. That stuff was not even trying to stay on there, and I applied a little bit more. So while this dries, I will be, just a little sneak peek, I am setting up to do a sharpening video. So I'm actually filming 2 videos at the same time. This video may take longer, so this could take all day today and then probably tomorrow as well to do the finish on this blade, which is why refinishing a knife is time consuming and costs a lot. Plus I will have to resharpen this. So let's go ahead. I'll bring you back after this is dry and we'll get this thrown into tumble. We are ready for the next step, folks. This has had a couple hours to dry. Actually, I did shoot another video, actually shot 2 other videos. I just wanted to give this enough time to dry completely so that it's nice and hard. It's not going to just peel off in the tumble. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this in the tumbler, and then I will put the tumbler over here and I'll show you guys what it's doing. We'll maybe do a quick time lapse on that, but I'm going to tumble it for a while. So it's going to be a long period of time I'm tumbling this. So let's go ahead and get that done. I added my stone wash medium in. Now you can do this if you're just wanting to do just a regular average stone wash. You can do this in just like a can. And if you don't have a tumbler, like I said, you can get a jar and like attach it to a drill and then just let the drill roll it. I find that this works better because it has these drops. So the stuff will come up, and then drop and pound down on itself. And it just seems to work better. I like the finish that you get from a tumbler way better than the finish I get from like a vibratory, which is a finer stone wash. I want this to be aggressive, and I'm gonna let it go for a while. So I'm gonna get the lid on this, and then I'm gonna get it on top of the motor, and we'll get started. Like I said, you got to put a liquid in. I definitely recommend the rust remover. Like I said, it is absolutely a biodegradable, absolutely no acids, nothing. So it's perfectly safe for me to use, and then I can just wash it down my drain when I'm done. But it's not gonna let this rust while it's in the tumble. And you want to have, you know, that's probably enough right in there, a couple cups of the liquid in there, just to keep the stones clean and to allow the stuff not to stick. So bring you back in just a second. Dahlstrong's for sponsoring this video. I've been using this 8-inch Gladiator series chef's knife for well over a year now, and I gotta say, I love it. You're getting a lot for your money when you go with Dahlstrong. There's a link down below. You can check them out. They have a huge variety. You can see some of it scrolling up here on the screen. They have a huge variety of knives, different price points, different materials, things that are going to meet your decor if that's what you're into. So don't forget to check them out. They've been really cool to sponsor this video. They've been a good partner for the channel for a while. Check them out. Now, let's turn this around and get back to the video. Okay, so we are ready. I'm trying to remember which side goes where. I do believe that it goes this way. Nope, I was wrong. So we're going to get this on here and allow this to start working. All you have to do for this is you just plug it in. I've got my cord here. Where did I put my cord? So this is in an area of the studio you guys don't ever get to see. You can't see it. But it's going to tumble like that for at least a couple hours, I'm going to say, maybe longer. And I want to look and make sure I don't have any leaks along this seal. But yeah, we're gonna just let that do its thing for a couple hours. I'll bring you guys back. I'm gonna put you on time lapse for a little bit. You can just watch it if you want. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna leave that because it's really boring. You guys don't want to see it. So I'll bring you guys back when this is done tumbling. We'll look at the initial finish, and then we're gonna put it into fine tumble and do it. It's probably gonna take a couple days to do this the way I want. Okay, so stage 1 update. I tumbled this overnight. We've got a good heavy stone wash on this blade. As you can see, we've completely removed all those scratches and stuff that were on it from where I let my friend borrow a knife and he cut sandpaper. It also removed all the corrosion. So now the next step is we're gonna stop tumbling it in these triangle medium, and we're gonna start using these much smaller ceramic rods. And so what these are going to do is, these are nowhere near as abrasive, but they're just going to polish that surface. And if this comes out the way I'm hoping, you'll still see you'll still see a lot of the scratches from the stone wash, but a much more polished finish. And there's a couple reasons I'm doing that. It's D2 steel. So now that we've stone washed that, a lot like blasting, what we've done is we've opened up the pores of that steel, and it's going to allow this D2 to rust a lot faster. So what we're going to do is we're going to refine that. So this tumbled overnight. This is probably going to have to tumble at least a day, maybe longer in this medium. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. I'm not going to show you guys the tumble or anything because that just takes forever, but I just thought we'd do a quick mid stage. Like I said, this tumbled for about so I tumbled it most of the day yesterday and then all night. So probably almost 20 hours, 16 to 20 hours, something like that. So that's what got us that finish. Now I will have to resharpen this because those ceramic triangles just knocked the entire edge off and the tip. So it's going to require a resharpening. So let's go ahead and get this put up, thrown in there. When it's done, I will bring you guys back for the final review of how this came out. So it's not that hard to do. It just requires some special tools and special, media. It is early Monday morning. I just opened up that tumbler and it's not done yet. It's not done yet. It's early. The sun's not even up. So I'm going to give it all day today. I'll check it tonight. If it's not done tonight, then we'll give it till tomorrow, maybe tomorrow evening. It's not going to hurt it to leave it in there longer. So time consuming. I was hoping it was only going to be a couple days. Looks like it might be 3. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, it's been, I broke the screws loose on this because they were pretty tight. This has been tumbling for about 48 hours now total. After I did the initial, so it's Tuesday now, and hopefully we got what we're looking for as far as finish. So I'll pull this off. I want to make sure that all of the little ceramic cake sprinkles have gotten back down, because I don't want them flying everywhere. So let's see here. What have we got? So we did the initial tumble, gave it the heavy duty stone wash, and now we put it in those really fine ones for a while. And we got a very, very fine finish on this. I'm pretty happy with it. Looks like there's a couple spots. I saw it on the other side too. Looks like there's a couple spots where maybe one of the cake sprinkles stuck. Yeah, you can see it was stuck on it. And it didn't give me a complete, yeah, there's one here too. But all in all, I'm happy with that. That'll even out as I use it. And the nice thing is I can always redo this process. So there you go. There is a really fine, really, really super fine polished stone wash. And all it took was 3 days of my life. So let's turn this around, do a couple final thoughts, and send you out about your day. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to put this knife back together real quick. So I know I said this had been tumbling for 20 or 48 hours, but it's actually been closer to 72. And you can see you get a super, super fine. I thought we'd bring it in, get it a little better look at it. Super, super fine stone wash pattern on this. You can still see the markings on it, the D2. It got rid of all the corrosion on it. Now I will have to resharpen this when I'm done, but let's go ahead and throw this back into the handles. I'm really happy with this, especially for the fact I'm going to use this knife a lot. And that means that if something happens and I need to do this again, at least I know that the process still works and I can always redo it. Maybe give it a longer tumble to give it a heavier duty stone wash before I do the polish. So let's get this thrown back together real quick. So it's early evening. I don't have my watch on. It's like almost 6 p.m. here. So I've got the garage door open because it's a nice evening. So if you hear a bunch of traffic noise, that's what that is. So we got our bearings out here. Toss this one in. As always, a little bit of lubrication. I cleaned this up earlier. I cleaned the parts up earlier so that I didn't have to worry about doing a cleanup on this when I got ready to put it together. Then we'll throw our blade on. That blade looks really good compared to how bad it was scratched up. And I mean, I do know it was a cheap knife, but it was something that Jared gave me, and I really liked it. And I kind of wanted it to look a little bit better. And the fact is, a lot of times I do stuff like this with my knives. If something gets scratched up, it's something I can kind of do on my own. Like I said, remember we got 2 different size screws in this. I got to grab a T8 and start getting this put back together. This has a nice keyed pivot. The last thing I'm going to do is just a drop of the KPL Heavy right here on the detent ball. You don't need a lot. Stuff really works wonders on the action of a knife. It'll take a knife that's already smooth and just make it ridiculous. Let's go ahead and get this thrown back together. Kind of looking forward to putting this back in my pocket. I haven't carried it for a little while because it's been in my tumbler. So I don't think I've got that in all the way. There we go. So let's put the short one here. We can probably pull that back together. If it's not completely back together, we can probably pull it back together with the pivot screw. There we go. Put this in here, and then this pivot screw will probably just suck everything together as we do this. There we go. Yep, I was right. So, oh yeah, it's even smoother than it was, guys, because that the finish that's on this now is a very, very polished finish. Now we're back centered. Yeah, so detent track on this did get obscured, but now it's going to cut in nice. So there you go. Let's give that. Let's just adjust that tension just ever so slightly. Key to a nice smooth action. Loosen it, like tighten it down, and then loosen it back until you just lose the blade play. So if you feel a little bit of jiggle, then you tighten it back down just a little bit. That is super, super smooth on that. There you go, guys. There you go. finished product is a very, very polished stone wash. All right, guys, let's turn us around and do some final thoughts.
Guys, not a difficult process, just time consuming. You got to have the right stuff to do with it. You can do a coarse stone wash just in a jar. We used to call it a trash can finish. Throw those triangles in and you just shake it up inside a can. You can use a coffee can. It's not that difficult. But to get this final result, it's time consuming and you've got to have the machine to do it with. It's going to be very difficult to end up with this. Like I said, it took a little bit more than 72 hours to do this. There was some times where I had to turn that off for certain reasons, but yeah, it's not so much the difficulty, it's the time investment. And to get this polished stone wash, you got to have the machine to do it with. So it could be a bit of an investment in money too. So guys, you saw a new sponsor on the channel, Dull Strong Knives. Not really a new sponsor, just an old sponsor that we have revitalized our partnership. Don't forget to check them out. Coffee Brand Coffee, Tempered Trails, all three sponsors down below. You can use the links down below at checkout to save. It doesn't cost you anything extra. You can use any of my affiliate links down below to go ahead and purchase knives if that's what you're looking for. I've got GP knives, knife ship free, all those. Not going to make this any longer. I got memberships. I have an Amazon store. Take the Amazon store link, pin it to your browser, use it for any shopping you do. Pick a tier on the memberships that works for you. And then I also have a I have a public Discord that I started up. I'd like all you guys to join it if you want to hang out and do all that. So I will talk to y'all and see you in the next video. Man, I'm sure this is going to be a long one.